when I woke up this morning, I think I've already mentioned it to Donnie. Um, I'm thinking about the age of Aquarius. I'm thinking about astrology, and I want to talk about it a little bit because I'm getting calls now from people who are upset at events that are happening out in the world. It's either that they've never seen things move so fast before in their life, and which is affecting their lives or people they know changes. Okay. Or just degrees of uncertainty, and they've never seen altercations where they've been exposed to them, like evidently they did in recent conversations with Trump and Zelensky. And because they're very upset by emotional upsets, period, I believe is what we might say. Okay, well, this is the age of Aquarius. And so I thought, okay, what people don't understand is because everything's moving so fast now, why is all this happening so quickly, et cetera, is because it can, literally. And what I mean by that is we have moved into the age of Aquarius, in as much as our solar system now has a backdrop of Aquarius instead of Pisces. So we call this the age of Aquarius for the next 2,500 years. So, and then we have Pluto, the planet itself, has moved into Aquarius from Capricorn. So we got a double whammy, and the symbol for Aquarius is the lightning bolt. And that lightning strikes wherever it strikes, so to speak, and you have an electromagnetic change. The polarities get changed when that flash of light goes through there, that flash of energy, just like if it hits your house and you don't have a lightning rod on it to ground it, it'll go through all your circuitry and wipe out anything plugged in. Is gone in a flash. And that's what's happening here right now. And when I say it's happening at that speed, is because now it can. Probably what 6-8 months ago, this could never happen. You would have never had that kind of speed. It just couldn't happen. But now everything's in place, and it can, and it is. So, and I've watched for a long time because I know this is coming, and I was interested for a decade or more, because I'm an astrologer. I know it's coming, what the trigger point was going to be. Well, now we've seen the trigger point. And in actuality, it's not Trump. Trump is not doing this. He was asked to be the front man, but this is not his agenda. He didn't make this up. Okay. But the program is happening. And so what is Aquarius? And I was talking with Donnie earlier today. I said, of course, I've been around for a long time. So in the 60s, we were made aware of the dawning of the age of Aquarius. It was blasted on the New York stage, okay, announcing it was coming. And so Donnie looked up the music. So give us a little background on that, the creation of that, and the lyrics, etc.
So the name of the band was The Fifth Dimension, which is, I mean, that's
how about that
by itself. But I thought, okay, well, let me look up the lyrics to this song. And it says, it starts off, the first verse is, when the moon is in the 7th house and Jupiter aligns with Mars, then peace will guide the planets and love will steer the stars. This is the dawning of the age of Aquarius. Harmony and understanding, sympathy and trust abounding, no more falsehoods or derisions, golden living dreams of visions, mystic crystal revelation, and the mind's true liberation. And then there's some chorus, but that's, it talks about the sun, but that's ultimately that's the meat of it there.
Yeah, and what have they been bantering around for the last year or two? Oh, you got to go to 4 or 5D,
Yeah.
So on and so forth. And like I said, New York stage was important in those days. It was a big deal. The world knew about this play, this song, so on and so forth. And that was the spiritual movement that was moving during the 60s that broke this open. In fact, somewhere in DK, it says we are going to try an experiment in that time frame. And so I'm assuming that's what that was. And if you listen to Michael Robbins, then there was, at that point in time, he indicated, because he made sent out a text, that the Buddha had lent Christ his vestments, and that was the Christ consciousness that was descending down to a certain point, which did certainly touch humanity's emotions, because everything went gaga in that regard. And that was a spiritual movement. I mean, Christ and Jesus the Christ, and that dialogue was spoken all the time. And in fact, I had a friend of mine and his brother were arguing about which one of them was the reincarnation of Christ at that point in time. So you can create that situation today, but it was a spiritual movement, and even your musicians initially were after the spiritual movement, but they used the drugs to try to get there, because now we are just opening the mind and we can experience this kind of reality or that kind of reality. Those hadn't been opened before. And then pretty much what happened is the overdose of drugs took out a whole lot of the people who were initially the leaders in the music world. They got a little bit too much Neptune. But there's no way that you could recreate it, and it changed the social structure. It broke up a lot of stratification of wealthy people don't talk with poor people. This culture doesn't talk to that culture, so on and so forth. It stripped all of that away. And you got the concept of love. That was the big theme. And it was Aquarian, so it was detached, not emotionally focused. So it was, if you can't be with the one you love the one you're with. Okay, there's the degree of detachment. The loyalty wasn't there anymore from an emotional basis, so on and so forth. It was everybody mixing with everybody. So then what? You had the Woodstock, for example, masses of people coming together. And aside from being drugged up, they were in love, so to speak. And it was only there, and the Beatles were there, the music was there. What John Lennon is indicating, basically, follow me. I'm, in so many words, he may not have said I am Christ, but by the same token, he implied it on another level. And follow me, follow me. So Then, of course, it settles down a little bit, but the structure was changed. It never went back to what it was. It mellowed a little bit, but it rearranged its social structure on the planet. And so now people knew that in advance, astrologers. And here's where astrology surfaced again, also, was during that period of time. But it was cocktail astrology. It was the one-liner that was, you're going to hit on somebody and say, "Oh, hi, I'm so-and-so. What's your sign?" It was a pickup line. And worked pretty well, actually.
Seems legit.
In those days, yeah. But the depth of astrology wasn't understood. It was, you had the pretty book with all the astrology on a cocktail table or something like that. And people would know sun signs because basically the sun is in a given sign every day of the year that's predictable. So when you were born, and so consequently you are an Aquarius or you are a Pisces or you are whatever relative to the birth date. And everybody knew their birth date. They didn't know their moon sign or their rising sign or anything like that. But that we weren't into that depth. So yet there seemed to be some validity to it, because if you were a Taurus, then you can get a description and it will, for the most part, accurately fit a Taurus. But that's where astrology came back again into this world. And some people went on to study it in depth. And those are the astrologers that we've had from then to going forward. And now, even the young people who are coming in seem to identify with it, even though they have no idea the amount of information it gives you. So talk a little bit about astrology, Donnie, because you've obviously had the experience with it now. When you get your chart read, when you get that massive information initially, what went through your mind?
Some of the information was instantly recognized as being accurate, and some of it was certainly in question. Now, some of the aspects that were written out, the more particular, like say Mercury conjunct Pluto in my chart or something.
Let me jump. So now we are talking about, when you talk about aspects, we are talking about the explanation of your personality.
Right. Yeah. When I started reading those, I had to go deeper, I think, and to start really looking hard at whether or not those things were accurate, because it wasn't very clear on the surface. And so it took me, once I read it, and I was very much open to it at that point. So I wasn't blocking the understanding. I really wanted to know more about myself, and I trusted you for sure that it was correct. So I did go, digging deeper into myself, I suppose, and I saw it in the way that you had written it out. There were little hints in there that were able to allow things to come to the surface, and I started to recognize myself more and more in there, in the personality.
So
The
let me,
It's such an interesting thing. It's difficult because you don't necessarily in the beginning want to believe that it's possible, or that because you lose so much control at that point.
you should gain it, actually.
It doesn't feel that way necessarily. I don't know. Because now you're saying that this is, there's something that like oh, so you're saying that this is all written already.
Well, that is true. We've heard that statement made around the world, haven't we?
That's a hard thing.
So what benefit was it to you? Any benefit?
I think it was a big piece of the puzzle for me. It was a piece of the puzzle for sure.
Okay, so let me jump to some more information that you get at that time by a chart reading, and that is what's coming up for you over the next year. Now, those are transits. Did you have any clue that even existed in your life prior to this awareness?
No, I did not know understand any of that at all.
Okay. So
Um,
your roadmap.
yeah, but I don't want to skip. I don't want to skip over the personality profile too much because what it is you once you identify those aspects and those attributes that you have, well, now you can become aware of them. So there was a whole bunch lying under the surface that I was not aware of. My own behavior patterns, I just didn't see them until it was presented to me. And then I was in a position where I spent the time reflecting, contemplating, and observing myself to see if this was, and it's extremely accurate. My dispositions, my predilections, my pull to certain behaviors, no matter what it was in there, it was all I was becoming aware of it, and I think that's just such a huge thing. Is it increases your level of awareness of yourself, and that's on there's no word, there's no money, or there's no words, that's impossible to gauge. It's so important.
How do you translate that into what kind of benefit?
You can start having more control over um I guess the best thing to do in that situation is probably give an example where you would probably have better ones. But if you're a hothead, and you have this alignment that makes you get angry quick or something, but if once you get it under control, now that kind of turns into some more focused relationship value or something. But becoming aware of being a hothead, it's like, oh well, this is written, you're going to be a hothead, you're a ticking time bomb. And then kind of working through that and observing yourself going through it, and then talking to yourself in a sense, saying, all right, well, this is generally when you would explode, so maybe we're not going to explode now, and we're going to approach this from a different angle, and to see if it has more benefit coming at it from over here. And so that's really what I mean. And in every different type of attribute too, you can do that. And then it's just a matter of observing ourselves, and then letting it come out. And it takes a long time.
Okay, now I'm going to jump down to Tom, who I saw laughing and smiling when we were talking about the charts, because he's gone through the same thing.
Yeah. Well,
a little bit from Tom.
One of those little chuckles could have been, I saw what you did there, Carla, because Donnie went from saying, you kind of recognize that you don't have total control, to all of a sudden walking through that I have awareness of this now, and I am actually in more control of how I can react to some of these trigger points. So, but anyway, but yeah, similar to Donnie, for me, it really, and this is going back to the personality aspects. There was a little bit of denial when I had my personality aspects read out to me, and I read them. Not a lot though, because most of what I saw was pretty dead on accurate. I mean, actually, it's all dead on accurate, but there were little pieces I was like, it doesn't sound like. I know I'm not buying that piece of it. But what that did was I was now made aware of that. And when I didn't really have to dig deep to look for that, because when it came up again, I'm like, oh shit, there it is. Like, okay, that is me. Okay. So that's really what it did is brought that level of awareness of myself so that I could be aware of these kind of behavior sets in the future. And really, it helped me to kind of take pause when something popped up so that I could try to approach things in a different way than I have in the past, and kind of transmute that energy into something more positive versus just kind of losing control and being stressed out about something. So, that's what it did for me in a nutshell. But similar to Donnie's story, it definitely is beneficial in terms of raising the self-awareness that everybody should have. So, and then the transits piece, I don't think we jumped into that. I think we were going to pause on that. But anyway, when we get there, I'll have more to say about that.
I do remember 6 or 8 months later, I had asked you, because this is on tape somewhere, by the way, how things,
Probably a few times.
yeah, how things are going. And you said, well, we don't have any more fights at home. And you said, and I figured out I was the problem.
So yes, it shed me away from the pointing the finger elsewhere anytime something went south, thinking it was always someone else's problem and not mine. Someone else is the reason for my dissatisfaction. It forced me to start looking in the mirror because this is not a matter of people are going to do what people are going to do. I mean, this is a matter of people are going to do what they're going to do. How I react to that is what matters. Um, and so it helped me to self-reflect in those terms so that when these disagreements did bubble up, it didn't turn into a fight. It turned into a constructive conversation, or sometimes when it was just like, I don't feel like talking about this right now, it's just, okay, shut up, Tom, and walk away type of thing. So it brought a lot of kind of beneficial, I can't think of the term, I'm just going to say that it made the relationship a lot better, a lot more tame. And I saw that with my kids as well, specifically my son, who before it was like, oh, you gotta do everything that daddy did, but more, to now, well, shoot, no, you're not daddy, you're you. So let's find out what makes you tick and make sure you're following along with your goals and what you need to do and function how you need to function to best function in society. So, but yes, it turned what could sometimes be a frictional relationship into a more blissful uh partnership. There we go. That was the term I was looking for.
I want to add something, Carla.
Okay.
Our backgrounds being government and military really probably it puts everyone involved in that in a box.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to really conform to the manual for whatever role you're filling. And you may have a personality, or you may have I would say personality. We all have our quirks, but you had to really just keep all that tamed down in these environments. And they don't look to treat people as individuals at all in any way. But when I got my chart and then I got my kids, I saw, oh, the conformity thing kind of went out the window, where it's like, oh yes, you want everybody to be themselves, and that's the beauty of this, as opposed to to fitting a mold of some sort, like because Tom and I are trying to fit the mold of tough guys, because that's what they're making us fit into,
Yeah.
the tough guy mold, when really that's not probably maybe how we wanted to act, so but now with the kids and all, you can see that uh, you can approach them as individuals, and That's really the best way to go about it. And if we know more about everyone else, then we know the best way to interact with each other. It's quite amazing.
And Kim, do you have anything to add to this? I know that you've just had a recent chart reading and it hasn't had time to settle, but
I'm still absorbing mine. I'm looking more at the transits at the moment, and there's one coming up about a contract and to be cautious about it. So it might seem okay on the surface, but it may not be, behind the scenes. So yeah, I'm looking at that. But really, with Tom and Donny, they're still decompressing. Doesn't matter how long they've left that service, you're still decompressing and still finding that niche, in your own life, and that trying to put the military side to one side.
Yeah, they're quite good at what they do. That's a whole different. That's a whole thing.
Well, and it's for me, it was I kind of already went into it being a somewhat rigid person, so it made me even more rigid. And then coming out of it, I continued that rigidness, which created a lot of friction in my relationships with people. And in doing so, a lot of stress on myself, right? And then when I had my reading done and kind of had this aha moment of clarity when things started bubbling up, I'm like, okay, that's when it really kind of things took shape and I really started shutting some of that out. It was useful at the time, right, to get me to where I am. But it helped me recognize that I don't need to be rigid in every approach. So,
and I think I asked you afterwards also because you were in management and you handle a lot of people. And that your work relationship with your employees, et cetera, had changed in its dynamic. Do you recall any of that?
Yeah. Less dictator and more open to how they approach things as long as the job gets done. So I became more flexible as a manager. Still want things to get done, but I'm not going to tell you how to do it because you might need to do it a different way than I would. So I think it definitely helped there.
And I think we had a conversation, Donnie. This was, I think, with Melissa also, who is a government management, I think, in law or something, and has a crew. And the awareness was, and I think some of this for you too, Donnie, at that point in time was, but certainly it was awareness for her that not everybody does things exactly the same way and not everybody has the same capacity. So it's oftentimes the comment had been, I'm the manager, I'm telling you the way to do it. This is how I want it done. And I don't understand why you can't do it that way, kind of thing, because everybody should be the same. I can do it, so you should be able to do it. If you understand that not everybody is going to process that job the same way, even though they may end up with the result. But if the demand is you do it this way, and why can't you? You don't understand that every person is different.
Yeah.
Once you realize that, what happens, Tom?
Everything becomes easier when you let it happen
Much
the
more
way that
loosened
it
up,
should.
right?
Yeah. The tension gets lifted. And then when more tension comes up, it's easier to deal with and turn into something positive. So, but yeah, so you just fully articulated what I was trying to convey there, Carla, that it was that I don't understand how you don't know how to do this way type of thing versus, oh, well, you're still getting to the end result. Now, I like I said, I still have to make sure things get done in a certain amount of time. So there is sometimes that friction, but that's just outside of the how do you get there type of speak. So
Was there anything else you were saying, Donnie? Did we interrupt you?
Nope, nope, no, it's there's so many parts and so many moving parts, literally, I guess, to it.
So I'm going to go back to one more minute, as long as we're going through this in detail. So you got a call that you should talk to me. In other words, one of your friends who had been gifted an astrology chart had the reading and then had called you and said, no, you got to talk to this person. And it was, I'm sure he just said something about he had an astrology chart reading done. Did you have any idea the vast amount of information that is aware there to you once you understand the dynamics of your chart and what the potential is? Because I'm only working with 3 numbers.
No, it's not. No, you can't know what you don't know in this realm. You can't possibly know.
Because within astrology, I've got 3 numbers. It's a matrix, triple matrix, exact time, date, and place of birth. From that personality profile that you're going to run around with all of your life is there and can be read and can be understood. Okay. By somebody who can read all the signs and symbols and see the geometrical relationships. And basically, transit-wise, your future, what's coming up for you, and the timing of it is there. What impact does that have in your life? Once you know that every year you can have a clue of the agenda that you're probably going to be working with.
I think at first there's a bit of trepidation approaching that. And then, you know, if you're still quite emotional, which I was, and you know, those years ago, I think I was just expecting something terrible to happen because I probably still had some levels of anxiety at that point, and it took probably a year of going through it and you saying, hey, look, there's nothing bad technically, you know, so that kind of has to get drilled in. And then it took probably a year to see how it was going to, you know, how it rolls out and how it plays out, because you still don't know when you just get it. You still don't know what you don't know yet through experience. You may understand it all conceptually, but we're not grasping the experience or the wisdom of how it, you know, plays out yet, or however you want to look at it. But you know, you don't want to fly by the seat of your pants. That's just another level of awareness to, and then you can just put it aside and worry about, not worry, but move on to other things. You know, I don't know.
Like living your life.
Yeah, and you know, there's so many different aspects to it, and you know, and then the North Node. I thought that was a pretty impactful thing, and that hit home heavily for me. And then, you know,
Well, that's
relationships and all.
Yeah, that North Node is talking about your spiritual journey, and that's between you and your soul, so to speak, but it explains why you're here this round.
Well, and then the retrogrades, that's incredibly profound in and of itself, and how that functions. Just the functionality of a retrograde, and then identifying it at some point later on with your own chart and building that level of awareness. Now we're just going deeper and deeper into our own life.
Yeah, how you function.